It started as just another weekend at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Charles Leclerc, the golden boy of Ferrari, was expected to lead the charge after a strong string of performances. Lewis Hamilton, still getting to grips with the SF25. Just another round of adaptation for the seven-time champ. But then came FP2, and with it, the numbers. And everything changed. This wasn't just about one lap. This wasn't just about one session. This was telemetry so precise, so clean, so dominant. It silenced engineers and turned heads in the garage. Suddenly, the balance inside Ferrari shifted. The question wasn't whether Hamilton was catching up. It became, has he just taken the lead within his own team? Let's break down how Hamilton didn't just put together a fast lap, but redefined the dynamic at Ferrari with pure, undeniable driving intelligence. When Hamilton rolled out solo in FP2, thanks to Leclerc's earlier crash, it looked like just a data-gathering session. But behind the scenes, Ferrari engineers were already glued to the monitors. The telemetry started showing something different. In the low-speed zones where the SF25 had looked twitchy and unbalanced for months, Hamilton's control stood out. Through turn 3, where most were battling the rear end, his braking inputs were so smooth it looked like art in motion. No snap, no struggle, just laser-focused precision. He was hitting the brakes later than Leclerc, but still managing better mid-corner speed. That's not just bravery, that's confidence rooted in understanding. Out of turn 10, his throttle application was almost robotic. No corrections, no drama, just grip and go. It got deeper in quarter 2. Hamilton's strategy with ERS deployment was bold. Instead of burning energy evenly, he backed off slightly in the technical middle sector, conserving just enough to unleash full deployment in Sector 3. And it worked. He gained nearly 3/10 in the final sector alone, thanks to more punch down the straight and a cleaner run through the chicane. This wasn't luck, it was data-driven domination. And Charles Leclerc? He was there watching the numbers come in, sector by sector, 10th by 10th. The car setup, identical. The difference, execution. By the time Q3 came around, the garage tension was impossible to ignore. Ferrari had the same machinery on both sides of the garage, but only one driver was extracting all of it. Hamilton's cornering speeds through turns 7 and 8 were consistently faster, up to 6 kilometers per hour, despite using less steering input. That means he wasn't fighting the car. He was flowing with it. His rotation zones were cleaner, braking zones more efficient, and traction phases smoother. Put together, over 6/10 of a second gained on pure driving feel and technical adaptation. Leclerc, meanwhile, was making more inputs, more corrections, and dealing with front-end washout. It wasn't bad driving, it just wasn't optimized. And in F1, being 95% dialed in isn't enough when the other side of the garage is running at 100. Even the steering behavior told a story. Hamilton had asked for a tweak to reduce mid-corner lag, a request Ferrari didn't grant. So what did he do? He adapted. He changed his steering rhythm and smoothed out his inputs without any hardware change. Result? Cleaner exits, less wear, and a more stable rear. Leclerc watched all of this unfold, and for the first time in 2025, he wasn't watching from ahead. This was supposed to be Leclerc's bounce-back weekend. Instead, it's become a wake-up call. Hamilton didn't just match Leclerc, he set the internal benchmark. His data isn't just impressive, it's now the gold standard inside Ferrari. From engineers to strategists, everyone's suddenly asking, how did he do that? The psychological edge now sits squarely in Hamilton's corner. The telemetry has turned into influence. And in a team like Ferrari, where political weight, momentum, and internal trust matter, it could be the first real turning point in who leads the red machine going forward. What happens on Sunday could reshape the entire dynamic. If Hamilton backs up this qualifying form with a strong race, Ferrari may quietly start recalibrating their focus, not officially, but where it counts. In strategy meetings, in updates, in development paths. Leclerc isn't out, but he's no longer untouchable. McLaren had been flying under the radar in Canada, fast, efficient, and quietly hunting for big points. But as the race reached its climax, all eyes were suddenly on the papaya cars for all the wrong reasons. Two teammates, one DRS zone, zero margin for error. What happened next didn't just shake the race, it sent the FIA stewards into action, summoned both drivers behind closed doors, and left McLaren answering uncomfortable questions. The collision? That was dramatic enough. But the fallout? That's what could leave a lasting scar on this team's 2025 campaign. Let's break it all down. The high-speed move that went wrong, and the steward's unexpected decision that followed. You'll want to hear this whole story before you make up your mind. With just a few laps to go, Lando Norris had found himself breathing down Oscar Piastri's neck. He had fresher tires, better pace, and the bit between his teeth. And with both cars closing in on Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes, the stakes were enormous, not just for the race, but for bragging rights inside McLaren. Lando made his first move into the hairpin. Aggressive, yes, but fair. It turned into a drag race down the back straight, Piastri just holding him off with a firm line into the chicane. Game on, but the battle wasn't over. Norris came out of the final corner with a burst of momentum and saw a gap, or at least he thought he did. In a split-second decision, he darted left to make the pass. But the space closed up. Fast, boom, contact. Lando's front wing snapped off. He skidded into the pit wall. Game over. Piastri, unscathed, cool as ever. Norris didn't wait for the stewards to call it. He owned it right away on the radio. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's on me. Totally my fault. The incident might have looked like a racing misjudgment, but the FIA wasn't going to let it slide. Both drivers were called in to explain themselves. The charge? Breach of racing conduct, specifically causing a collision under Appendix L of the International Sporting Code. Lando admitted it. He thought the gap was there. It wasn't. Plain and simple. The stewards reviewed the footage. They examined the data. They heard from both drivers and the teams. Their conclusion? Norris was 100% at fault. The collision wasn't intentional, but it was avoidable. So what's the penalty for a driver who's already crashed out of the race? A 5-second time penalty. Not exactly game-changing, since Norris was already classified in the 18th, but the message was clear. Intent doesn't matter. Results do. If you cause a collision, there's a consequence. To his credit, Norris didn't deflect, didn't shift blame. He approached Piastri after the race and apologized directly, face-to-face. No PR buffer, no excuses. And Piastri, to his credit, took it like a teammate should. Lando's a good guy, he said. He owned it. That's what matters. McLaren boss Andrea Stella also kept things level-headed. No malice, just a misjudgment. We don't want our drivers taking each other out, but we understand these things happen. We'll review it, we'll learn, and we'll move forward. And that's the key takeaway. This wasn't about a crash. It was about accountability, about how a team handles internal conflict, about whether this was a one-off or a sign that competitive tension at McLaren is starting to boil. In Montreal, everything seemed to be clicking for Lewis Hamilton. A strong start, smart tire management, solid track position. For a moment, it looked like Ferrari might just be clawing back some ground with both drivers inside the top 5. But then, Hamilton's pace mysteriously faded. Lap after lap, his grip vanished. His braking deteriorated. His race rhythm cracked. Engineers were puzzled. Commentators were baffled. And Hamilton, he just knew something wasn't right. Nobody expected this to be the answer. It wasn't until after the race, after the checkered flag had fallen and Hamilton had settled for 6th, that the bizarre truth came out. He had collided with a groundhog. Yes, a groundhog. The circuit Gilles Villeneuve is notorious for its unpredictable wildlife appearances, but no one, not even Hamilton, realized in real time that he had struck one. There was no dramatic onboard footage, no wild reaction over the radio, just a sudden drop in performance and the feeling that something had gone wrong under the car. Hamilton explained it later. I didn't see it. I just heard after the race that I hit a groundhog, and honestly, that's devastating. I love animals. That's not something you want to hear. It's horrible. The impact had torn a hole into the floor of the SF-25. The entire right side was damaged, aerodynamic vanes gone, downforce compromised. As Ferrari later confirmed, the damage cost Hamilton several tenths per lap. In Formula One, that's the difference between fighting for a podium and just barely hanging on for points. What makes this story even tougher is that Hamilton was actually happy with his early race form. He'd started strong, he was in control, the car felt decent, strategy looked solid. Then slowly everything unraveled. On top of the floor damage, a brake issue developed midway through the race. Then came the strategic misfire, staying out too long before the first stop and getting buried in traffic. What was shaping up to be a potentially top 4 finish dissolved into damage limitation. And yet, even in frustration, Hamilton kept perspective. "I'm just grateful I was able to finish the race," he said. "Given the floor damage, the brakes, and how the strategy played out, bagging some points is something, but we really need upgrades. There's a lot that still needs to change if we're going to fight at the front." That last line wasn't just about one bad race. It was a quiet but clear message to Ferrari. The car isn't there yet. Not for him, not for Leclerc, and certainly not against Red Bull or McLaren. After 10 rounds, Hamilton remains 6th in the standings, 25 points behind his teammate. But in a car that still needs fundamental improvement, even a handful of points salvaged from a damaged floor shows the grit of a 7-time champion.